What's up, guys? WhoNeedsMeta here. So our buddy Roger got 18th am I right?
Yeah, 18th.
At Indy with Amaryllis, and neither of us own Amaryllis because they cost money. I don't want to buy them until they reprint it, and then the other ones are not as expensive. So figure this is a good opportunity to get something like this that we don't have.
Yeah, just barely missed top 16.
Yep, I actually had the same record with the X2 as David, but my tiebreakers were less good. So 18th place. We started with obviously 3 copies of Phoenician Cluster, Amaryllis. You need to play 3. The lists that are playing 2 are coping because it's expensive.
Sounds right, yeah.
3 copies of Titanial, pretty standard. In honor of this channel, we do have my alties here.
Yeah.
I played the ugly golds on purpose. This deck's really expensive and it's full of pretty cards, and I wanted to flex with ugly cards instead. 2 copies of Lone Fire, pretty standard. 2 copies of Dandelion, standard. And then 1 copy of Botanical Line. I think you do need the Botanical Line. I think you need 1 more plant target in the deck.
That sounds right. It's also it gets surprisingly big.
Yeah, he can be really big. 3,100 if you have all 5 plants, which can help beat over some targets, so that's nice.
Yeah.
We do play the Lightsworn package. I've got 2 Raikou, 2 Lila.
Oh, double. Okay.
And then we've got 1 copy of Card Trooper, Honorary Lightsworn. These are our millers. They save so much of this deck, setting a Raikou or just milling on end phase with Lila and then hitting an Amaryllis, and then you can immediately activate it to summon it to the field.
Have you ever considered a turbo variant with like 3 Raikou, 3 Lila, and like solar recharges to just like burr?
I did in the very beginning of playing the deck, but I didn't much care for it.
Okay.
You end up breaking on them kind of hard because they don't do a lot. Obviously, solar recharge is really good, but it just wasn't worth it.
Needlebug Nest, though.
We play 2 tuners. I've got 1 Plague Spreader and 1 Debris Dragon. Some lists don't play Debris Dragon, but I think it's becoming more standard, and after Lowman Yu-Gi-Oh! Popularized it. It's a really great card, fantastic with obviously Card Trooper to be able to get 3 more mills, or Dandelion to be able to have some tokens afterwards. Just a great card.
It protects, you get tokens means Titanial, which means more not fun for opponents.
And Stardust Titanial is like the board.
That is the board.
Yeah, just today at Locals, I Foolish Burial, Dandelion, Normal Summon Debris Dragon, Stardust Dragon, turn 1 with 3 tokens, and next turn Tribute Summon Titanial. It's just like, it's game over from there.
You can actually tribute for Titanial like relatively consistently in this deck too.
You definitely can. The Dandelion tokens are flowing quite often. And then I've also got 1 Necrogardna and 1 Morphing Jar to round out the monsters. Necrogardna is absolutely fantastic. I actually misplayed in round 2 and threw the game by not using it because I milled it on turn 1, and then on turn like 17 I didn't use it to save my life. But the card's amazing. Definitely would never cut that. Morphing Jar, on the other hand, I did actually, after the event, move it to my sideboard because I found that it's not good against Vayu, and it's just okay against zombies. I played against a lot of both of those decks, so I decided that it's better in the sideboard for the matchups where it's really good, and in the matchups that it's not as good, then it's not stuck in my main deck for turn 1. That's it for the monsters. There's 22 of them, I believe.
That sounds right. No volcanic counter?
No, those are gone. Those are just bricky. Here's one thing that I do that's very different than a lot of other Amaryllis players I've seen. 2 copies of Trade-In. This card is insanely bricky, and I brick on 3 copies all the time. At Indy, I lost a game bricking on 2 copies of Trade-In, not finding anything. I just had 2 dead Trade-Ins in my hand all game. Drives me crazy.
It's just the 6 level 8s, right?
Yes, I just have the 6 targets. So I just found 2 to be way more effective, and I never felt like I missed it. I just played more discard traps in other ways. Most of the time, you get to your discards more than effectively enough through this package with Hidden Armory, DDR, which is your discard outlet, and Mark of the Rose. So obviously this pack's really good. Mark of the Rose is fantastic for tribute summoning Titanial, stealing boss monsters, stealing things to synchro summon with, just generally outing problems like Vanity's Fiend or problems like Fossil Dyna. And then DDR is just such a powerhouse in this deck. You constantly have a giant banish pile, and you can summon back effects.
Yeah, Amaryllis, Banished Titanial, and then DDR the Titanial feels pretty good.
Yeah, and then another card that pairs with Hidden Armory nicely is Miracle Fertilizer. You can skip your battle phase, or your normal summon rather, with Miracle Fertilizer and Hidden Armory in the same turn.
So you can just double down.
To try to avoid missing your normal summon too much.
Is it worthwhile? Like, I know you can get back Titanial, which is great. You can't summon Amaryllis with it.
Correct.
But you can get back Lone Fire, Titanial. Is that good enough?
That's really all you need. Most of the time you try to summon Titanial straight up with it, since you'll be hopefully keeping it in play, and this is just a once per turn that hangs out.
Yeah.
So you can then use it the next turn if it hangs out long enough. But
have you played the deck without it?
I have. It's less good because you have less threats.
Okay.
It just adds more threats to the board. I like it a lot. I don't like 3. 3 is bricky. There's not enough good targets for 3.
That sounds right.
1-up spells, we've got the Charge of the Light Brigade.
Good card.
Foolish Burial.
Also good.
Heavy Storm.
Yep.
Mystical Space Typhoon.
Easy as.
All simple cards. No questions asked. Then for the discard traps, I do play 3 copies of Phoenix Wing Windblast.
Was there a Braincon in there? Did I miss that?
Nope, I don't play.
No Braincon. I mean, I get it. No Caius conversions, but you do have Plague.
Yeah, because I don't have the, or because I do have the
Mark
of the Rose, I feel that I don't need Braincon quite as much.
Sure.
Also, I was trying really hard to get to 40 cards. I have to cut something. And eventually I decided to cut Braincon. I was siding it for a long time. And then I decided I don't really know what I'm bringing this in against. So I'm just going to cut it completely. And I really haven't missed it.
Okay.
I mean, it's a powerhouse of a card. I don't fault anyone for wanting to play it, but I haven't missed it.
Sure.
This card at 3 is fantastic. The only thing you have to keep in mind is that you have to make sure you have enough equivalent discard traps in your sideboard, because there are matchups where this card is not good.
Fair enough.
And then I've got a bunch of 1-of traps. We've got 1 Call of the Haunted. Absolutely fantastic. It amazes me that people don't play this card. It's so good.
Great for Titanial.
Really good to bring Lone Fire. Really good to bring Titanial. When your opponent goes to MST or Heavy Storm it, you can chain it and grab Dandelion or Card Trooper for advantage that way. It's just a good card. Mirror Force, Torrential Tribute.
Good with Dandy.
Trap Dust Shoot. This is the other change that I have made since Indy. I cut Trap Dust Shoot. At Indy, Trap Dust Shoot massively underperformed. I constantly felt like it was not advantageous enough to justify its existence in the deck. I know it's a good card. Maybe I'm just not a good enough duelist to abuse it. I don't know. But I did cut it because this list is 41. And cutting Trap Dust Shoot brought me down to 40. That was the choice that I made.
Fair enough.
The last trap that I play was a last-minute addition to the deck, and it's Scrap Iron Scarecrow. I was actually scrambling to get this card the day before Indy, and I'm really glad I did. This card solos Blackwings. They're done.
That's true.
You absolutely cook them if you have this card against them. It's so good that I've considered siding a second copy just for Blackwings.
It is really funny if you catch their Roko pump with it.
Yeah. It's a super powerful card, and this deck does have a habit of summoning a monster that has 0 defense in defense position.
For Bora.
And Scrap Iron can really buy you the time you need to switch it into attack position and run over the Blackwing instead. So I really like it in a lot of different matchups, but it's exceptionally good in the Blackwing matchup.
Interesting tech to keep in mind. It's popping up in some decks.
Yeah, people are starting to play it, and I think it's quite good.
Was that was main deck, 40 cards?
Main deck, it's 41. I did cut the Dust Shoot after the event, going down to 40.
Okay.
And then we've got little tokens.
Nice tokens.
Always bring 4. You never know when you're going to need 4. It happens. We've got in the extra deck Chimera Tech, Armory Arm, Cataster, Magical Android. I went into Cataster and Chimera Tech during the event. I did not summon either of the other 2.
That sounds right. It's really only with Plague and like Card Trooper. Or Dandy or Lone Fire, I guess.
It's pretty narrow. Pretty narrow, but it does come up sometimes. Goyo I did summon. It was a mistake. I should have summoned Brio. That also cost me a game. I attacked into a Necro Gardna that I forgot about. And if I had gone Brio, I could have answered the threat.
Yeah.
One weird card that I play that's fun is Queen of Thorns.
That card is awesome.
This card's super cool in this deck because, 1, it puts another plant in the graveyard. So you have 1 more banish for Amaryllis. 2, you can Miracle Fertilizer this back to the field after it goes to the graveyard, which is super cool. But this is a burn deck. So if I can put Queen of Thorns into play easily, it's something I like to do because I'm already burning 800 damage constantly. So having to pay 1,000 to normal summon or special summon from hand a non-plant can actually be pretty taxing. That being said, I did not summon that card at all. Iron Chain Dragon for the Debris Dragon if we happen to have a Raikou situation.
Would you like to keep the Queen of Thorns going forward, or do you think you'd swap it with like Tempest Magician for the Lila Plague play?
So that has never once in my life come up. I know a lot of people do play the Tempest Magician.
Yeah.
I've never had the situation where I've thought that's a good play or that I want to make that play.
Okay.
I have summoned the Queen of Thorns once before in this build. It was not at Indy, though. I didn't do it at Indy. Queen of Thorns is a lot better when you're playing the little Twilight Rose Knight. Because Twilight Rose Knight lets you set up Queen of Thorns
Twilight
very
Rose,
easily.
Dandy.
But... yeah, no, I Tempest Magician's fine. I've never once summoned it, really. Like, it's just not something that I've ever done, so I just decided I don't need it.
I was just curious.
One Ancient Fairy, I didn't summon it. Black Rose Dragon, I summoned it a bunch. The card's amazing. Absolutely fantastic in the
Blow
deck.
the board, summon Amaryllis.
Boy, I wish it wasn't at 1. Then we've got the Dark End Dragon. I didn't make this, but you can theoretically make it by stealing someone's Caius or something like that.
Which probably happens fairly often.
I did steal Caius's. I just didn't.
You've got
didn't
4
make
Mark of
him.
the Roses, effectively.
Then we've got the other dragons out of Stardust and Red RDA. So just targets for Debris Dragon. Stardust is obviously really good next to Titanial. It's a very hard board to break. I did not go into Thought Ruler, but I do like him for gaining life. And then Colossal Fighter. This card is insane against this deck. Colossal Fighter
Ram Titanial
is so good at answering Titanial. So I definitely play it for the mirror more than anything.
I see where that,
So that's the extra deck, and then we'll pop into the sideboard. We're playing 2 copies of Cyber Dragon. I sided this in against Blackwing, and I sided it in against Machine. It's obviously quite good against Machine. And I like it against Blackwing just to have an extra beater. This deck doesn't have a ton of like beat sticks except Titanial, and sometimes you just need a little beat stick to help getting things going.
I see that. Botanical Lion's stats work pretty well in the Blackwing. 2K butt.
Having the 19 with the 2K butt is not bad. We got 2 TD Crows. This card
is good.
It's a good card. It kind of underperformed at the event, but it does occasionally just kind of solo a game or two. A sideboard tech that's really, really good that I like is this Aaron.
Oh.
I sided this in all the time. It's super good against Frog. It's super good against Zombie. It's pretty decent against any of the Raikous. Just being able to spin back like hamsters and Raikous. They do still activate, but spinning them away is really good. But seriously, against the Frog, like you spin back the Dupe Frog, you spin back the Treeborn Frog. It's just so powerful against that deck.
I can see it.
We play 1 copy of Burial. After
not in the main.
After the tournament, I moved this card to the main.
Okay.
I sided this in every single game 2 and 3 for the entire length of all of Indy. I don't know what I was thinking. This card is a main deck card. It is so good. It got swapped with Morphing Jar after the event, and Morphing Jar moved to the side, and Burial moved to the main. One other card to talk about here that I sideboarded, which is not in my stack for some reason.
We gotta find it.
Oh no.
All right, we found it.
There it is. Return from Different Dimension. I also cited this card. I hated it. It was horrible.
Really?
I thought it was going to be really, really good. My idea with citing 2 of them is that I have 2 cards that answer my graveyard getting banished, and we're playing a mill deck, so the more cards we can have that answer my stuff getting banished, the better. And every time I drew it, it got popped before it was useful. And I never wanted to chain it in response to it getting popped. And it just wasn't good enough. It wasn't impactful enough. And it can't summon Amaryllis.
Yeah.
So I just decided to cut it entirely from the list, so I don't even play this card anymore at all. Then I played 1 copy of Lightning Vortex. This card's fantastic. I absolutely love it as a quick action discard effect, while also obviously answering the dupe block. And then another card good against Frogs, Soul Release, also very good into the meta in general. And then I played 2 copies of Smashing Ground. This was also...
Yeah, you like that card.
I like that card.
It was a bit of a last-minute decision to add to the list, and I'm so glad I did, because this card answered so many Vanity's Fiends. It answered so many Fossil Dynas. Like, without this card, I get stuck behind those you can't special summon cards. It's difficult to out in this deck. You only have about 3 or 4 normal summons that can actually answer Fossil Dyna. Most of what you want to do to answer it is special summoning it, and oftentimes putting it back on top with Phoenix Wing Wind Blast is just not going to do it.
Because then they could just like set it again. Like you special summon a guy, then they just set it and it's like cool.
Yeah, it's like great, now I can't attack it. Then I played 2 copies of Royal Decree. I think this is super standard in this deck at this point. This card's amazing. I sided in against Vayu. Oftentimes Vayu can't win if they don't have good trap cards.
Yep.
Usually if you can just blank a single trap card with Royal Decree, you can win. Even just using it as almost like a counter trap. But if it can stay on the board for like 3 or 4 turns, then usually you really win really fast. So
you also like Decree in your deck.
Big fan of Decree. I could even see being insane and like main decking Decree in this deck. Like, I think it's that good. And then last 2 cards, I played 1 Starlight Road. I did end up cutting this after the event for a Kaiku.
Kaiku's great.
Kaiku's incredible. I really like Kaiku. Starlight Road theoretically is really good. I like it against Icarus attack. I decided that my Blackwing matchup was not that bad though, and I would prefer to have a different card in the slot. And I did side it in twice at Indy, and it did absolutely nothing. I just never drew it.
Fair enough.
And the last card is my spicy tech. Here's 1 copy of Divine Wrath. I wanted 1 more discard trap to be able to bring in to swap out with my Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, and I just hate Regeki Break. I'll be honest.
I was going to ask about that.
I don't like Regeki Break. And Divine Wrath will catch people off guard really hard. They're not ready for Divine Wrath. And Divine Wrath can negate so many exciting different things.
Regeki Break kills Dyna.
It does. Regeki Break does out Dyna. I think there's a good argument for Regeki Break. If you don't have a personal vendetta against Regeki Break, then I usually recommend it. I just don't like it.
How do you feel about Karma Cut?
Karma Cut's fine as well. I don't dislike Karma Cut. Obviously, Book of Moon at 3 in this format can screw over your Karma Cut a little bit.
I can see that.
But Karma Cut's fine. I think it's strong in certain situations, like it's good against Frog.
Yeah.
I think this deck has a really good matchup against Frog.
Yeah, Titanium blanks all the
Titanium kind of destroys that deck. And on top of that, I played the Soul Release, and I have what's the other card?
The Smashing Grounds as well.
The Smashing Grounds and the Lightning Vortex to answer them, and the Aaron to spin back their Frogs. So I really feel like I have that matchup covered. At one point, I was actually citing the Pulling the Rugs, and I felt like they were just overkill. Like, there's no need for all that.
I mean, they bring back Treeborn Frog, and you just Wing Blast it as a clue you're going to draw now.
Yeah, exactly. Have fun drawing that Treeborn. It'll be great. So there's plenty of ways you can beat Frog. I don't think you need more ways to kill Frog, and Karma Cut is good, but
maybe win more.
I just feel like Divine Wrath is more huge. Like, when Divine Wrath is really good, it's almost like you just win the game with its effect. Also, this card's just so pretty. Look at it.
True. It does look kind of cool.
So that's the deck.
And then what were the so what's the side deck look like now? You said because you.
So after I changed it, I cut this. And then, obviously, I cut this card completely, so that's gone. So now my new sideboard still has, and then that moved to the main deck. And then I added in
Kaikus.
1 copy of Kaiku.
Great card.
And 1 copy of Dust Tornado. So the idea behind Dust Tornado...
the Morphing Jar's in the sideboard.
And then the Morphing Jar moves to the sideboard from the main deck so that the Burial can move to the main deck.
Okay.
So the idea behind Dust Tornado is to answer Black Whirlwind, and then also to answer Zombie World. Because Zombie World ends your game.
It's a blank.
You're done. So you have to have something, and having 1 more potential out to Zombie World with Dust Tornado is nice. We do have double Lila, double Raikou.
I was saying we thought of a third Lila instead of Dust, but I guess Dust answers a little bit more.
I just needed 1 more out to that. And then Kaiku was the Vayu shore up. My Vayu matchup suffered a little bit. I did lose to a Vayu player at Indy, and it was upsetting. And I was like, I need better cards to beat Vayu with, and Kaiku beats Vayu very well.
Yes.
You summon it, they cannot use Vayu while it's in play. They cannot remove your graveyard while it's in play, which means your Amaryllis are coming back safely.
And they can't
And then if you hit them, then you get to eat 2 Vayus out of the graveyard, and oftentimes that alone can end the game for that.
My favorite play is it beats over Greffer.
Yeah.
Turn 1, Greffer pitch Vayu.
Yeah.
It's just whenever they summon it, they pitch Vayu, and then they send Soroka, and you just attack over and use both of them.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
he's super strong, and I just really like him. So he's been way better than Starlight Road, and Dust Tornado's been far more impactful than Rich.
And they can't soul release you. Oh, based.
Cool.
Thanks for watching, guys.